Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Y'all need to be a part of this conversation. This is going to be a very serious conversation. So, for those of you who are tuning in, you know, I talk about politics typically, and one of the things that we talk a lot about in politics is the swamp and the deep state and the amount of effort that goes into corruption when it comes to the political sphere. And maturity is realizing that DC and Hollywood are the exact same space, okay? Now, when we talk about these power players, there are power players such as Roc Nation, for example, where you have big leaders in the company like Jay-Z and, you know, this woman named Desiree Perez that we'll be talking about today. Now, this story, we're going to be expanding on it more on YouTube next week because I want to give Demoree the full opportunity to tell all the detail of her story. But today I want to begin the conversation of exposing some of the abusive tactics that have allegedly been happening because of these big Hollywood elites from the perspective of the CEO of Roc Nation's daughter. So let's bring her in. Good afternoon.
Hi, how are you?
I am blessed and highly favored. How are you?
I'm doing well considering all things, and I appreciate you for having me here today.
Of course, I am really, really grateful and honored and humbled that you are giving me the opportunity to talk to you more about your situation and all things going on. And I just want to preface and say that you are so protected by God. The fact that you are here and healthy, as well as your husband, that is that is a blessing from God. And I want you to just continue to move without fear and with strength. And just to say that I am proud of you. The more I have looked into your story, I was in tears this morning just doing a deep dive. So you are incredible. So let's start with just you want to introduce yourself.
Yes, well, first of all, thank you for your kind words. Thank you again for having me on here. Thank you for looking into this, right? Because it's easy to look away
Mhm.
and to stay silent. So thank you for that. My name is Demoree Hadley. My maiden name is Demoree Lopez Perez. As you guys know or don't know, my mother is Desiree Perez, the CEO of Roc Nation. I live in Miami, Florida, and I'm here today to just shed a little bit of light on what's going on.
Hmm. Absolutely. So I want to get more into your story. I want to do a full interview sitting down, like more formally with you this upcoming week. But just talking a little bit about what happened to you so that the audience is aware. So essentially, how were your freedoms taken away and what happened to you in the last couple of years?
Yes, so I would say my freedom was personally attacked on March 27th, 2024. The Baker Act was used against me unlawfully, as well as the Marchman Act, as well as a petition for guardianship, which, as many of you know, you have to be deemed incapacitated, which I am very far from. So those were the three things that were used to falsely imprison me, to essentially take away my voice, and then as far as like intimidation and abuse, that has been going on for well over a year now. I've been sued. My husband's been sued. We both were falsely imprisoned. I have no access to the man who raised me now. I can't get in contact with him. Uh, what else has been done? Private investigators, unlicensed private investigators, living across the streets. They moved now, but just the following. I mean, the list goes on, and I know we'll talk about that in our detailed interview, but those were the specific, like, short answer things that have happened to me.
Mhm. And for those watching who aren't familiar with Demaree's situation, she has the receipts. The receipts are all there. You can find it on the internet already. You did an incredible interview with Jaguar, right? So I want to shout out Jaguar. And, and we're going to get more into that. I want to talk a little bit about, first of all, what was some of your mom's alleged involvement in all of this?
Alleged is a very strong word because of the receipts and the evidence that I have is
Right.
overwhelming, honestly. But I know we have to tread lightly with that. So, her involvement is pretty much very black and white, right? So we have body cam footage of doctors, and I quote, saying, me saying, I know you were paid by my mother, and Dr. Daniel Bobar saying, well, all doctors are paid. So we have that, right? We have a private investigator named James Fondo, owner of Sig9, former Broward Sheriff Office police officer, saying that, he put a tracker in my car, which is a felony here in the state of Florida, right? We have police reports listing my mom, her full name, Desiree Perez, but then listing her as my aunt when she's not my aunt, and her lying on police reports into police claiming to be my aunt. I'm not sure why she didn't think that people wouldn't check that. It's very uncertain. We have body cams of private investigators, Jeffrey Brown, admitting that my aunt, aka my mom, called police and said I was being abducted at a farm with my 3 husband's nephews to get him arrested, and for police to go over there and arrest him in front of the kids, it very intentionally, because it could have been done every other day. It was done that way to make a statement, and it was done to intimidate children. So I do want to highlight that, because I don't think it matters what color or ethnicity. Children should always be off limit. And I don't think people are talking about that enough, right? It's not just trauma that I've been through, my husband. You have now impacted children, to the point we haven't been back to that farm, and we used to go once a year, every year in December. And we haven't been able to go because, again, the trauma of going there. What else? We have body cam. We have her listed in both the Baker Act, the Marchman Act, the guardianship petitions as her being the petitioner to essentially get rid of my rights, Desiree Perez. So she's listed on there. This is all public record. I've been doing my due diligence to post it. I'm realizing that a lot of people don't have access to download these public records. So I'm working with a mutual person that connected me to you to get that out there in the light so that people can, have access to reading it, because I know Pacer is very expensive. So working on getting that out for you guys. BJ, the surprise witness, did a deep dive on the lawsuit. It's 95 pages, the alleged complaint. But we inserted not everything, but enough so that you guys understand, like, there's enough evidence that Desiree Perez is involved. There's enough evidence that Roc Nation is involved. There's enough evidence that all these entities are involved. Obviously, I didn't show my full hand, right? Because that's the purpose of court. Right. But yeah, that's her direct involvement, allegedly.
Mm-hmm. And as I'm looking at like the details of all of this and some of the things that went on, it's like, so yes, you have the body camera footage, you have the medical records, and also the fact that they were alleging that you overdosed, which is crazy, because you have proof that you had negative drug tests. And how were you able, first of all, to obtain like some of these records that are exposing her involvement?
Yeah. So I hired a private investigative team, and they're amazing. My attorney is Hilton Napoleon, very great attorney. My husband's attorney was Naeem Hassan in his criminal case, very great attorney. And my investigative team, I'm keeping them private because we've already had issues with people being threatened. And so I'm trying to protect them as much as possible. Once this is over or it goes to trial and they're depoted and all that, then you guys will see who the company is and how amazing they are, so I can recommend them, right? But that's how we got basically all of the evidence. Also, the great state of Florida, because I know people talk bad about Florida. Florida is one of those states that it's really amazing that there's no such thing as something that happens being 100% private. There's public records. So a lot of the stuff was done through public record requests. And here in the state of Florida, whether you have a communication with the state attorney's office, with any public official, it's not private. That's public information. And I'm really grateful for the state of Florida for having that, because, for instance, in New York, it's very hard to get the amount of evidence that we were able to get due to, Florida, the Sunshine State law. So a lot of that has been used, right? A lot of investigating has gone into this case. I've become like a lawyer slash investigator slash PR, everything, one man show with my attorneys and everybody because uh, when all this was happening, and I want people to understand this, when all this was happening, I was questioning, like, am I like paranoid? Like, is this really happening? Because when you read it, you're like, this is not real. Like, you're like, this is like absurd, right? So a lot of the times I had to question myself. And the best thing that I can tell anybody is if you have the means or the resources to hire an investigative team when you're dealing with a case, do it because it helps tremendously and it really solidifies that I'm not crazy, that everything that I was, my intuition has guided me. That's why when you said you're heavily protected by God, let me tell you something. I really am. Like he has shown out in ways that I can't even imagine because there's people that are in prison, right? That shouldn't be in prison right now. There's people that are in hospitals that shouldn't be in hospitals right now. Mm-hmm. So God has really covered me and shielded me. And that investigative team has helped me gain confidence in my intuition. This whole ordeal has told me a woman's intuition is on point. Follow it, you guys. Believe in it and trust in yourself, and all this should be swell.
Amen. I see that they're doing a lot of the same tactics that they tend to do when they're trying to make people crash and burn. They're trying to isolate you. They're trying to gaslight you. You even dealt with the situation where allegedly an employee of probably your mother's, of Desiree Perez, pretended to be hiring you for a position with Nike, only for it to be found out that she was really just doing a psychiatric exam of you. And then that was being used to force you into this basically a conservatorship through the Baker Act and for them to try to get you as alone as possible. Now, as you've been speaking out more about this, my understanding is a lot of people are afraid to sit down with you. A lot of people are afraid to hear your story. Why are people afraid to interview you?
Yes, that's a very good question. Number one, allegedly, right? I think people are being paid, right? A lot of money to look the other way. Roc Nation, my mother, Desiree Perez, all these law firms, Quinn and Emanuel, Reed Smith, they have a lot of money and connections and resources. So allegedly, right? My suspicion with that is I I'm certain, allegedly, that certain people are getting paid. I think people are afraid because what is happening? Censorship is happening. So they're misusing copyright infringement laws. And with Twitter, what I'm learning, because I wasn't into the social media thing until I had to advocate for myself, is that Twitter, when you do certain reports or whatever on a post, to protect themselves from being liable, they automatically like take down the post until further investigation. So, and this is not alleged, like I have receipts for this. So they hired Reed Smith and they made an email that's called takedown, Reed Smith takedowns at gmail.com, something like that. And it literally lists the reported, the copyright owner as Desiree Perez. And so with the NBC6 News story, when I posted it and people were reposting it and DJ Academics posted it and Drake liked it and it was getting its traction, immediately they reported DJ Academics for copyright infringement. They were able, Twitter, because of that feature, automatically took it down. And then they're doing that because they don't expect like a DJ Academics or like one of your fans or supporters to challenge the report, to go back and forth on email. Because what I'm hearing from a lot of bloggers is, oh, when you challenge it, they make you put your name, your address, your information. So people are scared. They're like, well, I don't want Reed Smith or Desiree Perez to know my address or where I live. If she hired investigators with guns to follow her daughter, like, what makes you think I'm off limits? So people are scared of that, and I don't blame them. And so they don't know. It's an abuse because, first of all, you should know this better than I do. You should be able to repost a news story like that. There's nothing wrong with reposting an NBC6 South Florida news story. And what's really sad about it, the reason why NBC, they weren't able to get it off of NBC's Instagram, is because I'm the owner of the photo. Like, I have the iPhone proof. So it's like she's claiming copyright infringement, but if you know anything about copyright infringement laws, you have to prove you're the owner of the photo. And I'm actually the owner of the photo. It was taken from my iPhone. So that's why they have not been successfully able to take it down from NBC6's Instagram. So I'm putting that out there. So if you guys, if your video from reposting the NBC6 thing is being taken down, it shouldn't. You challenge it. They're not expecting people to challenge it. So that's why. And so to answer your question in a long-winded way, people are scared because they're being challenged. People are scared because they have to put their full information and they don't trust that, right? People are scared because they're seeing Nicki Minaj, one of the biggest rappers of all time, if not the best female rapper of all time, right? Get shadow banned or reported. Like, if they can do that to Nicki Minaj, they can do it to anybody. And so that's intimidating, right? If you're a regular person like me who might work a 9 to 5, like, you're scared. You're scared when you see a DJ Academics do a whole live saying why he doesn't have the money and the resources to challenge Roc Nation. You become scared, and it shouldn't be that way. This is the United States of America. We shouldn't be censored. We have freedom of speech. We have these social media platforms to be able to speak and share our opinions. Why are these big corporations paying the owners of the platforms, or why, allegedly, or why are they working with the owners of these platforms to censor the American people? I'm very confused with that, and that's an issue in itself. And yeah, I think that's why people are scared and they're intimidated. I mean, they're seeing it happen to me, so they're like, oh yeah, if they did it to Demoree, they'll do it to anybody. If they did it to Nicki, they'll do it to anybody. And so that's very scary and intimidating. So that's why I think people are scared. I think the platforms are scared. And so I sympathize with some of them. And then you have like certain platforms getting sued. So that's not allegedly, that's a public record. So I'll say that, right? So I saw that a very popular blogger that you guys all have been posting about is getting sued here in the state of Florida for just sharing her opinion on her platform. Just because she doesn't agree or goes against what someone's narrative of an event might have been, doesn't mean you should get her Twitter suspended and sue her. Like, that's terrible, right?
Right. So this is all such good information that people really need to know, because people on the outside of all of this do not understand the extent of it. And I want to dive a little deeper into the whole involvement of Nicki Minaj, because for example, my background started really in 2018 when I started seeing what was happening to Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj, in a similar way to how Trump has done, has always been about draining the swamp, because again, like I said earlier, Hollywood and DC are basically the same place. And it's never just you have one enemy. You're going up against corporate giants and machines. So Nicki, it's been Nicki against the streaming companies, it's been Nicki against the Grammys, it's been Nicki against Billboard, it's been her against all these different people. And because she continues to bring things to light, she has more and more enemies that are on her. There's been an insane amount of effort for like 10 years to tear her down. So to see her speak up for your situation, it makes me have a lot of questions. Why is it that Nicki Minaj is so invested in what's happening to you?
So I know I haven't spoken to her, by the way, so I'm gonna put that on the record. I have not been in direct contact with her. Would love to. Would love to. I think she's standing up for me because she has been through some trauma and
Mhm.
some abuse with Roc Nation, with Desiree Perez, with other individuals.
Mhm.
What I can say about that is I've witnessed and heard a lot of things. Again, is hearsay, right? So it doesn't even matter. And that's why I'm not even going to go into detail with that. If I have the opportunity to speak with Nicki, would love to connect with her on that. But I've kind of seen, just like you firsthand, how they've kind of, not kind of, they've abused her. They've abused of her platform. They abused of her talent. They've abused of her freedom of speech. They've abused her family. They've attacked her husband. They've attacked her child. Uh, and it's sad. It's really sad. Somebody so resourceful, talented, high profile as Nicki Minaj being targeted. It should really scare the American people. Uh, Me, it should really scare you guys too, right? Because I'm the daughter, so it's like at this point, if it's happening to me, I think she's really outspoken, and I'm grateful that she's being outspoken on it, because I think she's almost seeing it like, well, it happened to me, it's happening to her. let me speak up on it. Nobody is safe right now. And she's fed up. I think she's fed up because she's been through a lot. I've
Was
heard a
she
lot. Mhm.
sorry to jump in. I was just saying, she even specified that everything that they're doing to you and that they have been doing to you, that they've been doing for years. She specified in her tweets talking about the way they were going in and manipulating her social media, shadow banning what she had to say, taking her stuff down. She even said that she's not releasing music this year because of all the efforts that allegedly Roc Nation has been doing to sabotage her. And even if you go back, her old manager, Deb, was offered $5 million to abandon her on tour and try to sabotage her entire tour. We even saw her be put in jail while she was overseas for something that was absolute nonsense. So I really wonder, is it the same ops that she has, the same people that she has pissed off that you're having to deal with now too?
That's a good question. I think allegedly, I don't have like the proof that I have and the receipts that I have for my case are very concrete. When this stuff was going on with Nicki, I was kind of oblivious, right? Because I was still very much had a relationship with my mother, so I was oblivious of the receipts that there may have been. So I didn't think to collect receipts or anything like that. I just heard a lot of stuff, right? Hearsay, which in a court of law, it doesn't hold any weight. So for my case, it's easier to speak on that because of the receipts. For her case, I'm just going to speak as an observer, just like all of you on here. And from what I've read, right, on the blogs and from what I've seen, uh, yeah, I think that Roc Nation has attacked her. I think that they have abused their influence and their power to tarnish Nicki Minaj's image. I mean, I heard just like all of you rumors that were going around that she was a drug addict. The Nicki Minaj that I grew up listening to and love and admire never in my life suspected had a drug addiction. So when that was circulating, I was like, well, where is that coming from? And then I was like, well, that's kind of far fetched. And then look at what happened to me. I got accused of being a drug addict as well. And I had the scientific proof. I'm sure Nicki probably has the scientific proof as well. I don't have her proof. I can't speak on her experience and I don't want to. That's why I hope to connect with her because would love to hear her firsthand experience on that. But as an outsider looking in with parallels to my case and some of the things I've read about her situation, it's concerning, it's frightening, and I do think there is enough to speculate allegedly that Roc Nation probably most likely abused their platform and their influence to kind of tarnish Nicki Minaj's image. Yeah.
Mhm. It's, I mean, wow. As someone that has paid very close attention to everything that has happened to her, especially, I believe now 5 times her home has been swatted, which this is such an issue when it comes to just the way that children are being harmed and traumatized in this situation. From everything that, I believe it was your nephew saw, everything that Nicki Minaj's son saw. Imagine being a toddler and you have the SWAT team coming in with guns because people are, I don't think that's a prank. I think that it takes something much more targeted to get the SWAT team to be showing up to your house, raiding your home when you're just sitting there minding your business in the middle of the night. And I really do hope that you and Nicki Minaj get to have a real conversation and to really talk because she's one of the few people that has not been afraid to use her voice. And she has been getting closer and closer to speaking on these things. And I just know that she is so protected by God. And I hope that she continues to be protected by God because I see even like what happened to Justin Bieber, and this may or may not be related, but the second Justin Bieber started kind of dabbling in some, like kind of sprinkling some truth out there of some of the corruption that's happened, with everything with Diddy and human trafficking allegedly, that then all of a sudden he's crazy. All of a sudden, there's all these rumors trying to get him and his wife to be divorced. All of a sudden, all this chaos is happening in his personal life. So it's really frightening to see how all this happens. I want to ask just a bit more broadly, what are some of the tactics that Roc Nation allegedly uses to silence people?
I can't speak on I know that there's a lot of people that have messaged me with similar experiences or have shared stories of other celebrities. I can't speak on I don't know Justin Bieber, but I am a fan of Justin Bieber as well. But I don't know anything about Justin Bieber. Sending prayers and healing his way, because I do see like his images all over being portrayed in a negative way. So sending light to Justin Bieber, sending light to any celebrity that's going through anything uh, that may not be true or may, I don't know. I can't speak on his experience. I can speak on my experience of the tactics that were used in my case and my husband's case. So, hiring of men with no license, no security licenses or private investigation license. So essentially hiring grown men in the street to carry guns and follow us, right? We have body worn camera of that. My husband was followed. I mean, he owns a landscaping company here in Miami. We have normal lives. To hire somebody to follow him with a gun and show up to all of his clients' properties and commercial contracts and just watch and like follow, like in a way that he had to actually call the police because he was like, if I get out or try to defend myself, then I'm gonna look like the crazy angry black man, right? And so, and I feel like that was done intentionally to provoke him to have a reaction, and that could have been a deadly situation, right? And so he had to call the police, and the police did their due diligence. We have body worn camera of that guy saying he was hired by Desiree Perez, and then he's in a group chat with some people who are licensed investigators from CTS Research Inc., some people who were hired from PHLANX here in Miami. It's a private investigation company. That have their licenses saying that that they all were hired by Desiree Perez, and then people like Raymond Gonzalez, who was living across the street from the house that my mother rented with no licenses, following me, taking pictures. Those are some of the tactics that they did. Having a lawyer show up. So if I'm sure you're aware, when a witness or an alleged victim of a case is going to go to the state attorney's office to give a statement to essentially testify, they keep those appointments very private for the victim or the witness's safety. I'm sure you're aware of that, right? To send a lawyer to where I was going, how did she know the time that I was supposed to testify? How did she know about the meeting? Me hearing her say that she's my attorney when she's not. It became a whole situation. You'll read it in the amended complaint. We could talk more about it on Monday. Laura Gatz from Reed Smith, that's who she was. To send her with a private investigator who followed me to the courthouse, walked out, followed me inside to the state attorney's office to intimidate me. For what, right? Doing things like contacting your friends in the higher ranks of the Miami-Dade Police Department, putting in calls to tell police to act on a stay-away order that was in place to have my husband arrested for coming home to feed the cat when I had life skills. So it's like those type of tactics, manipulating the system, lying, calling in a 911 call and saying that I'm being abducted so that they show up at the farm and arrest my husband quicker because you just want him in jail so bad. Emails, we have email proof of an attorney named Brett Schwartz giving her the idea, hey, let's have her committed so she can't testify. So to silence me so I can't tell the judge, no, none of these allegations are true. So those are just a few of the tactics that have been done in my case that I can speak on. And then I think the biggest parallel that I'm seeing with my case and other people's cases is the censorship, right? So shadow banning me, not reporting bloggers who are posting it. I think yesterday we were in trending number 20 from what I saw from Pedro's Twitter, that justice for Dem was trending, and then out of nowhere it disappeared. How did that happen? Like, that's concerning, right? I don't understand how that happens. And then parallels of injustices with cases where we have email proof of law firms calling state attorneys and basically trying to influence them to press charges on my husband. Why is Quinn and Emmanuel and Alex Shapiro getting involved in a misdemeanor alleged DV case in Miami? What's the point of that? And so I'm seeing parallels with how my husband's case was handled. I'm seeing parallels with that from what I'm reading allegedly with the Tory Lanez situation. And then now you're bringing up points about Nicki. I didn't even know that the SWAT team went to Nicki Minaj's house. This is the first time I'm hearing this. So I think that's concerning because to get the SWAT, you have to have, just like my husband, you had to have probable cause to make an arrest and they didn't have it, but they got it done. If the SWAT is being sent to Nicki Minaj's house, they have to have a warrant and some type of probable cause. So I don't understand how those things are happening. And it's concerning. And all I can speak on is my husband's experience and my experience, and read and hear what you're saying and what other people are sharing, and make my own individual parallels, right? Allegedly. And it's concerning. It is.
So I definitely want to get more into the Tory Lane situation as well as Jay-Z. But first, I have to whack Brett Schwartz really quick. So Brett Schwartz was the or is the attorney for your mother, Desiree Perez, who again is the CEO of Roc Nation for those of you who are joining in. And I just want to run through this list a little bit of just some of the things that you were able to catch. I don't even believe I have to say allegedly for any of this, so correct me if I'm wrong. So I saw that Brett was pretending to be your attorney, even though you two had never met, that the prosecutor, Lindsay Davis, emailed your mother saying that there wasn't probable cause or evidence for them to basically take away your rights under Baker's Act, which is 5150 if you're in California. I believe it's 939 if you're in New York, where essentially they take you into a psychiatric hold. They put you in a psychiatric center because they believe that you are going to harm yourself or others. That this attorney was so sloppy that he accidentally BCC'd, so he blind copied the state's attorney's office when they were having the discourse about how they were going to screw you over with no evidence so that you were able to access this information. They also, and how they're trying to charge your husband, a landscaper and former paralegal, with no ties in the Hollywood space at all or into any of this human trafficking mess, but they are trying to frame him as being this abductor. Then also that Brett Schwartz, that there's emails from Brett Schwartz to your mother, Desiree Perez, saying that maybe if we hire a brainwashing expert, we can have her committed.
Yes. So let that sink in because I think the people are like, what in the, yeah, I know. So it sounds crazy, but this is not alleged. So this is public
Right.
record. Like we have the evidence. So this is not fake. So, and I'm going to correct you on one thing that it's going to mind blow you. So those emails, so Brett Schwartz not only identified himself falsely to the state attorney's office as being my lawyer, but it was in the case against my husband. So, yes.
Oh,
So he not only did he do that, he filed a notice to appear on behalf of Demoree and me, which when you file a notice, that's like you're solidifying you're somebody's attorney. That's on the court docket. This is public record, people. You can look at, you can look it up. You can look it up. It's there. And he was emailing, by the way, I've never met this man in my life, never spoken to him, nothing. He's emailing the prosecutor, Lindsay Davis, identifying himself as my lawyer and basically trying to persuade Lindsay Davis to press charges on Javon for misdemeanor DV. And she responds to him in that email and says, I have reviewed everything that you and Desiree have submitted. There's no probable cause to make an arrest on Javon Hadley. There's no probable cause. And he goes as far as in saying, well, he forgets and he blind copies. He forgets that he blind copied the state. And then he has like conversations with my mom where they're like, okay, well, if we don't have proof of that, can Lindsay Davis push back Javon's hearing to where the state decides if they're going to press charges? Can they push it back on edge? He says, okay, I'll back. She pushes back the hearing, knowing that they're not going to press charges. Their tactic behind that was because Brett says, brainwashing expert, and we're going to try to we're going to see the state attorney's office human trafficking division, and we're going to try to see if we can get him for felony human trafficking and DV with no evidence. I mean, you have a prosecutor saying we don't even have evidence for a misdemeanor DV. So why are you trying to do that? So that was the purpose and the intent of the Baker Act and the Marchman Act and the guardianship. They were like, well, if there's no evidence that we can get him arrested for misdemeanor DV, well, let's have her committed. Let's have her as being this crazy lunatic and, get her sent away so then we can try to charge him with something else and maybe it'll stick. And this is all on email. Like they were so silly enough to like forget that the state attorney's office was blind copied. And it's really chilling when you read it because they're basically coming up with a master plan to separate my husband and I and falsely imprison us. And it's all on email. Yeah.
We're gonna have to we're definitely gonna
I
talk more about that in the long form. I have so many questions and so much to say.
know.
Wow. Okay. Um,
Yeah.
I'm really just like beside myself right now.
Yeah.
I want to talk about everything or I shouldn't say everything, but some of what's going on with this whole Tory Lane situation. And, and for those who are not familiar, and if you're not familiar, you're lucky because I'm so sick of hearing about it. This whole situation where Tory Lanez allegedly shot Meg Thee Stallion 5 years ago, and now Tory Lanez is in jail. Now, Tory Lanez has claimed that your mother, Desiree Perez, assisted Meg Thee Stallion in giving police statements during his 2020 shooting case. Now, there is increasingly more evidence that is coming out that says that Tory Lanez likely was not the person who shot Meg Thee Stallion. So I'm just curious, do you have any perspective on that case or the potential of Roc Nation's involvement?
Yes. So I wasn't there, right? So I will never say, Megan Thee Stallion's lying or Tory Lanez is lying. I'm not here to say that, and I'll never say that because I wasn't there. We weren't there that night. We don't know. But what I will say from what I've read, from what is being reported. And you know what? I'm going to actually cite the Shade Room. I'm going to cite TMZ since they're not giving me a platform, so I'm going to cite them. I actually read through their reporting, so through the Shade Room and TMZ about the Tory Lane situation. And then I also saw the press conference that his lawyers did, I think a few weeks ago. And then I saw the representative from Florida here. I think, what's her name? Paulina. I don't know her name. Do you know her name?
Anna Paulina Luna?
Ana Paulina Luna, um,
Wait.
kind of like speaking out on that case. And so I was listening just like a regular observer and listener and reading and all of that. Uh, I don't know, right? If somebody's innocent or guilty. I don't think that's the question that we should really be asking, in my opinion. And maybe that'll sound too like legal criminal justice of me to say, but I don't think the question is somebody innocent or guilty. I think the main question with the Tory Lanez case is, did he have a fair and equal trial, and was he innocent until proven guilty? I think that that's very important in every case because that's what the United States Constitution and the laws and the criminal justice system is about, right? Innocent until proven guilty and fair and equal trial. We're entitled to those civil rights, right? As well as in a criminal investigation, we're entitled to those rights. In my husband's case, I can 1000% say that he did not have a fair and equal criminal investigation. He was not deemed innocent until proven guilty throughout the process of the criminal investigation. And he was directly harmed and a direct victim of not having a fair and equal criminal investigation. When I'm reading and hearing about the Tory Lanez case, and I wasn't there and I wasn't in the trial and I didn't sit there, but I heard things, right? I came across things as far as listening and reading. I think it's a problem when evidence is not being presented in court. When, I think I read something about, a forensic gun residue result not being presented or not being presented or preserved or investigated in a proper way. I think if that's the situation and there's evidence of that, then I don't think he had a fair and equal trial, right? Because hello, that's a big thing, right? If we're not looking into, or if we're not testing gun residue on every person that was there during the night of the incident, and we're not ruling everybody out one by one and doing the same process for everybody that was present in the incident, one by one, the same exact process, because that's what you're supposed to do in a criminal investigation, I think that that's a red flag, and I think that that's concerning, and I think that that needs to be looked into, right? Why? Because it's not the question of if he's innocent or guilty. You don't know that. I don't know that. The public doesn't know that. We weren't there. Only the individuals that were there know. I think, did he have a fair and equal trial? And if questionable ways of how the case was investigated and how people were questioned, or the testimonies that people may have given or may have not given, if those things are questionable and the manner in which they were obtained are questionable, then the justice system has to do its part and investigate and really look into that, because this is somebody's life, this is somebody's freedom. And so from what I've read and what I've heard, I don't know, I don't really believe that he had a 1000% fair and equal trial or even an investigation. And I'm not surprised, because my husband didn't have a fair and equal investigation. We were just lucky enough that we had an amazing attorney, Naib Hassan. We had an amazing investigative team. I don't know who Tory Lanez's legal team is, or if he has an investigative team. If he doesn't, I really recommend that he get one. I recommend that he gets a good lawyer. I don't know if he had a good lawyer, if evidence after the trial or new evidence or new speculations are being presented now. I think that that means maybe his defense attorney didn't do a good job, because why is this being discussed post trial? Mm-hmm. And so that's my response to that. That's my response to the Tory Lanez situation. I think it should probably be investigated. There should be another second set of eyes if there's new evidence coming to light, if there's new things that are questionable in the way that evidence or things are being handled. It wouldn't surprise me to find out, right? Because this is all alleged. People are just saying. It wouldn't really surprise me if we found out that some of the same tactics that happened in my case and my husband's were being done in his case. It wouldn't really surprise me, because they tend to use the same law firms: Quinn and Emanuel, Holland and Knight, Reed Smith, allegedly, right? And so I think it's hard when you're going against a huge army of these high profile, individuals. And so that's my response to Tory Lanez. I pray and I hope that if his investigation wasn't handled in the proper manner that he deserves as a human being, right, who is living in the United States, then I do think they need to look into that. And I'm not saying that for views or clouds or whatever, because I do not condone domestic violence. I do not condone violence against Black women or women in general. But I do think that if there was not a fair and equal trial or investigation, he's entitled to that.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on that last part you just said. There, in no capacity at all does it come off as you're doing this for views or for attention
Okay.
or anything. It's so clear and obvious that you're doing this because you want to bring truth to light,
Yeah.
and that you want to shed light on this pattern of alleged abuse that seems, and well, in your sense, it's not alleged, it's objective, and in your husband's sense, it's very objective that this abuse is happening, and it's just getting exhausting that we are seeing this energy going to so many different people, especially these different Black men and Black women in the industry in the Hollywood industry. And a couple of people were acknowledging it in the live chat, and I've heard this too, but I don't know this. It's all alleged that Tory Lanez's first team. It's alleged that they had a back end deal with Roc Nation. Roc Nation seems to continue to be this common factor whenever you see people not getting due justice, because it doesn't make sense that Kelsey, who was also in the vehicle when Meg Thee Stallion was shot, that Kelsey gets an immunity deal right off the rip and then pleads the fifth. That's suspicious. That's weird. And then you have the fact that Meg Thee Stallion, she admitted to lying to the police while she was there. She also lied to Gayle King and admitted that she lied to Gayle King. She's continuously lied. And I just don't think that there has been enough effort being put into making sure that Tory's side of all of this has been put out there. And it was even, they talked about years ago, I remember the bankrolling from Roc Nation to do a smear campaign against Tory Lanez to make him seem like he was this awful person and this awful culprit and everything. And I just find it all very, very concerning. And I do know that Tori has a new team now, and I know Caldwell. I want to shout out him because he's doing a lot of work to try to bring more of this truth to the light. And I'm just very hopeful that Roc Nation will, at the very least, be investigated because it is becoming increasingly apparent that they allegedly have connections and are swinging their money and their influence around to all these different sectors so that they can cover up narratives, cover up the truth. And for again, for my audience that's political, this is the same thing that we're seeing in DC. We have seen so many times, like for example, the Hunter Biden laptop situation, how there was so much money and effort that Zuckerberg now admits was put into covering up that whole situation. So all of this is connected, no matter if you're someone that's fascinated by the pop culture or the political side, this is all dangerous. And it shows that these powerful people are working together to manipulate the truth. And that is just against the Constitution. And that's just against the ethos of what America stands for. And now, Demora, I want to ask you another question. Is there anything that we should know about Jay-Z?
Mm. You know what's crazy? I think I got asked that question one time. I actually don't like know. All the things that I know about him or been privy to or surrounded, I'm gonna be 100% honest. I've never like in the personal circle that I was involved, family and all that. I never saw anything firsthand negative or bad, and that's just me being 100% honest. Um, and from my understanding, he hasn't said anything about my case or any of his reps have said anything. So I don't know. I actually don't know if he's been involved or been informed on my case or anybody else's case. I really don't know from my knowledge of him, like when I was like, had a relationship with my mother and got to hear things and see things. Uh, it was always positive. I never really saw or heard or anything negative, and that's just me being 100% honest. So I'm sorry if it's not like what is it, like a teaser or whatever that people want to know. It's the reality. He's also a very private person,
Mhm.
so I think to know anything about him, you have to be really, really, really intertwined. And I feel like my mother would know that, not me, because they have a very close relationship on a professional capacity and a friend capacity, right? And partner capacity as far as like owning businesses together. So I don't think I could even answer that because I don't know. He's a very private person, so I was never really close enough to know enough.
Mhm. I really admire your integrity because this isn't me trying to fish for anything.
No,
I just know, like, is there anything you know? And if there's nothing that you specifically know about Jay-Z, then period. That's the end of that discussion. I don't want you to sit here and ever feel like in any interview that you do, I really would hate for you to ever feel pressure to say things that you don't know 100%. So I really truly appreciate your time and your integrity and your honesty and vulnerability as you have walked through so many of these different questions that a lot of us have. And, is there anything else that you want to share today? Because again, we are going to have a follow-up conversation this upcoming week. But is there anything else that we should know about your situation or a message you want to put out there or another message to Nicki Minaj, who we're very grateful that she is speaking up and shedding light on this situation? The floor is yours.
yeah, no, just everybody tune in to the conversation that I'm gonna have with you, obviously. Tune into the Jaguar Right, because people don't know the full story. It's very long. So that's why Jag has had to do like episode one, episode two. There's a total of 4 episodes. It took 4 hours for me to tell her the full story, unedited. So I want people to understand if you're frightened with the little things you've seen and the body cams, it's that. It's really bad. We have the receipts, we have the body cam. So um, tune in to her YouTube, watch episode one and two. Three and four are coming out in the next 2 weeks because she really does a deep dive on everything that has happened. Watch the interview with BJ, the surprise witness, because we focus on the mental health capacity, which is a very important topic in the United States of America. So I think everybody who wants to learn and gain some knowledge about that should, because BJ does a phenomenal job at that. So watch that. Watch this live. I mean, I think you guys are seeing different populations and angles, and viewers interview me and get a different light on the situation. And I think that's important. I think we need to hear the story from different angles. And in all these interviews, they cover different topics, different questions. And I think it's important to be educated, to bring awareness, continue to spread the word and repost, guys. I know that this live has more views and it's not showing it. Like, I know it. It's been a trend in everything that I've been doing with everybody who gives me a platform. So I'm going to continue to push forward. I'm going to continue to speak out. I did reach out to Giano, the man that you mentioned that's associated with Fox.
Mhm.
I reached out to him, not sure if he got the email. So if he hears this, would love to interview with you as well. If Nicki's team hears this, would love to interview with her, because I would love to hear from her what her experiences were. I'm pretty sure we have parallels and patterns. Would love the platform if it's offered to me, obviously, but grateful for what she's done already, because it takes a lot of courage to start a hashtag. Never in my life would I ever thought that Nicki Minaj would do a hashtag or even like acknowledge me. So I'm grateful for that, because it does take a lot of courage. I'm grateful to you because I know this comes with a lot of heat, and I know that I know that you could get attacked. I know that BJ could get attacked. I know that Jaguar could get attacked. And so I'm just grateful for all of you guys, for giving me the platform, allowing me to speak and not being afraid. And what you said is the most important thing. This is America. We have freedom of speech. Like, this is not about the left wing or the right wing or what you believe in, because one thing that I've noticed talking to both Republicans and Democrats and liberals, there's one thing that we all have in common. We all believe in freedom of speech. We all believe that we should be able to speak and say or think whatever we want. We all believe that these platforms were created to give small businesses, small content creators, minority businesses, journalists, to give them platforms to speak out, to give the American people platforms to speak out. So when our civil rights are being targeted through X, through Instagram, through TikTok, that's a problem. That's a censorship issue. That's not a left, right wing, or liberal issue. That's in a United States of America issue. And so I think we need to highlight it. We need to talk about it. We need to continue to bring awareness, because it's scary and it's a violation of our rights.
Amen. Demoree, I am so grateful for your time. I'm gonna text Giano, see if I can get you guys connected as well. And just please stay safe and keep your head up.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right, take care.
Take care.